Saturday. The truth was, Malaya Clondon had been thinking of French fries since last night. She craved them as she ate Chinese food in secret with her father while her mother worked late at the university. The thought of French fries stayed with the 8-year-old through the canned laughter and blonde-headed family tableaus of the Friday night sitcom lineup each week and helped her push herself from bed the next morning. She thought of the shiny fried strips nestled together, boasting countless shades of yellow and gold. From the time she cleared the front steps of the family's brownstone at 8 a.m., each Saturday until she felt at last the film of hot grease on her face after African dance class so much later in the day. On the walk to the meeting on Frederick Douglass Boulevard, other foods did drift to mind. Malaya and her mother, Nayela, passed at least 8 bodegas, plus the McDonald's, the Kentucky Fried Chicken, and the Woolworths on Broadway, where the smell of hot popcorn seeped out in slow waves from beneath the glass doors. On 145th Street, there was Copeland's restaurant and reliable cafeteria where they made crispy smothered chicken with gravy as thick as pudding and potato salad that was perfectly sweet and salty at once. By the time the Clondon women pushed through the heavy green doors of AME Mount Canaan Church and went down to the basement community center, by the time Malaya took her turn on the scale and watched red numbers blink and multiply beneath her, feeling Nayela's eyes fixed on the number panel from behind, Malaya thought only of the potato and ketchup crunch crusted mush she would have later. She did not think of the hour of dance she would have to get through beforehand, or what lies she would tell as to how her allowance had been spent. Hey guys, I'm back again, and I'm here to do a review of Big Girl, and this is by Mecca Jamila Sullivan. Big Girl is a book that we read in the Read So Lit book club that I run over on Patreon. This was our July read, and I found this book extremely interesting, and I really enjoyed the fact that Sullivan decided to cover a theme that I don't think is covered enough in books where the main character is a young Black girl. And that is a book around obesity and weight. So Big Girl opens up in part 1. The first chapter opens up with the main character who's called Malaya, and she is in a Weight Watchers meeting with her mother. At this point in time, Malaya is around 8 years old, but she weighs quite a lot for 8 years old. So her mother, in trying to help her daughter think about losing weight, but at the same time, her mother has a weight problem as well. So we go through following this character of Malaya, who is struggling with her weight, but in fact, I think she struggles more with the way that people react to her. And this is what is essentially driving her in the beginning, is how people react to her, and what people say and do is what is her motivator and what she decides to do. So the thing about the book is it's structured in, I think it's 3 parts, and each chapter has its own name. So there's no chapter 1, 2, 3, and 4. There are bona fide chapters, which I think is refreshing as well, because we don't get a lot of books these days written with proper chapter names, and that I really liked. And another really good thing about this book is it is set primarily in the 90s. So big ups to Sullivan for doing an excellent job of giving us the 90s in this book, because she really goes and gives us all of that, that vibe. And I feel like that's really, really good. Now, where she fell down was giving us the vibe of Harlem in the 90s, because Harlem could have been a character in this book if she would have written it where she would have given a larger voice to the city, which she opted out of doing, which sadly was a disappointment to me, as there's a particular part in the book where if she would have given Harlem a voice, this one particular part in the book would have been even stronger and even more important and even more brilliant. That did not happen, and this is one of the downfalls for me with this one. I'm not going to focus on too much of that. Now, moving on to some of the other nice parts about this book, I feel like Sullivan understands very well the plight of a young woman who has serious weight issues, because when you read the book, you can see that she took a lot of time to get into the seriousness and the different ways we could have difficulty growing up and having feelings and things like that. And I think she did a really great job, because there were quite a few ladies in the book club who had said that they felt like that was very realistic, the way she portrayed the difficulty of Malaya to lose weight. The transitions of the book, so when you transition from part 1 to part 2 to part 3, are done really well. And when you may leave on so for example, when we go from part 1 to part 2, she literally returned the page and she's a teenager. And I thought that was, I don't know, it gave me vibes of like what you would see in a movie. And I thought that was really done well. And that transition, and that is how the story is moved forward. It's not moved forward through a typical linear storyline. I mean, it's linear to a certain extent, but it's really more character based. It's a novel, because some people had trouble reading this book, and I think it's because of the way she goes about talking about character development more so than the storyline. Now, the thing is, I love the fact that we see Malaya grow up in this book. So she's 8 when she starts, and then she grows and grows. And I think at the end of the book, she might be 18 or 19. I'm not sure. We see a real development in her as a person, and because we see all the things that she goes through. Now, keep in mind, while Malaya is dealing with how to deal with the way people react to her because of her weight, we have her parents going through their thing. So we have the mother who's going through her weight loss difficulty, because she needs to lose weight as well, and she's having difficulty doing it. And she shows some of the signs of doing the same things that Malaya does, which is finding moments outside of the house to eat food that she probably shouldn't be eating, like, snacking on, chips and weird things. But not only that, she's probably also guilty of hiding food, like in her car and things like that. And at the same time, her mother and father are having a breakdown in their marriage. And they are a couple who came about in a very organic, unexpected way. And the love that they foster in the very beginning, which we see a glimpse of as a flashback, says that the love that they had was really it was real, and it was destined to be something beautiful. But as they have grown as a couple, they seem to have kind of grown parallel to each other. But not only that, they have become sort of disinterested in each other. Because they're disinterested, they don't understand what's going on with the other, and they're not trying to communicate to understand what's going on with each other. And it's kind of sad to witness the breakdown of the marriage of Malaya's parents, while Malaya is having her kind of breakdown because she has this weight issue. It's a very sad book, even though there are glimpses of the 90s that can make you smile and reminisce if you like the 90s. I feel like it's also really reflective, because it does hit on some of the points of, you know, what goes wrong with young girls in general when they have weight issues, and how the people around them react to it, but not only that, how society reacts to them. And that is probably the most poignant part of the book, is how, because Malaya doesn't have all of this character and understanding and faith in herself and the fact that she'll be all right, she's not able to rebuff some not so nice interactions with some people. And that is, when I was reading, I was just like, oh, Lord Jesus, I can't take it if there's going to be, you know, some, too much of the trauma. But I feel like it's done respectfully, but realistically, we get a even keel outcome of, the end of the book. Writing is very pretty. There's some kind of like poetic feel to the way it's written, which I found that really nice. And I like the fact that we really do like Malaya as a character. We don't dislike her. We really like her. And we also have the grandmother, who enters also into the story at various different moments. She can be a little off-putting because she says some things I'm just like, Granny, shut up. Okay? Shut up, Granny. That's what we want to say. But we understand that the grandmother really does care about Malaya and is trying to help her. But sometimes help can come off as a little bit unnerving at times. But I highly recommend checking this book out. I would say if you don't really like literary fiction, not to check it out, because it does have kind of a literary fiction vibe, and you might get frustrated because things aren't moving as fast as you would like them to move. I didn't have any problems with that, but people did have problems with that. And so some people as a whole gave the book like anywhere between 3.5. I gave it a 3.5 at the beginning, but after I sat with it a bit longer, after the book club, I couldn't get it out of my mind, the book. And I kept thinking about it. And in the end, I wind up giving it a 4 stars in the end, because I feel like the job that she was doing was instructing us on this idea or this theme of what happens when a young Black girl has obesity issues. What happens with her? What is happening with her in her mind? How are people reacting to her? What is society doing to help her or to just make things worse? And I feel like that's what the book is really about. And Sullivan does a great job with it. And I can't wait to read something else by her. I really did like this book. So that's all I have for you today. I highly recommend Big Girl.